You may have heard of the seven deadly sins. Now, they're not explicitly mentioned in the Bible as if Jesus says, here are the seven deadly sins, and then lists them all. It's never said in Proverbs, it's never said in any other wisdom literature. Jesus never says it directly. However, the list of seven deadly sins is more of an extrapolation of the seven major categories that most sin falls under. And it's based on 1,000 different passages in the Bible, and it's all compiled into one list, and when you commit a sin, it will probably fall under those seven things. And as I've observed and studied this list more, I've kind of realized one thing. Every single deadly sin is a result of pride. And that got me really thinking. Everything is just a different offspring, a different version of pride. And I'll provide a few examples about why I think pride is rooted in these deadly sins. In greed, it's just a feeling that you deserve all this and no one else does. With lust, you think you're better than someone else and objectifying them. So that's automatically a form of pride. Envy, you think they don't deserve this, I do. You feel sorrow when someone else excels. That's a form of pride. Gluttony is just a feeling you deserve to be consuming all this and not giving it to anyone else. That's also a form of greed, but that's also a form of pride. Wrath is thinking that you can enact your power and your anger on somebody else, maybe because they wronged you or because you don't like them. This is a form of putting yourself above them and that your actions are justified. Therefore, that's pride. And sloth is just laziness, physically and spiritually. And a lot of prideful and sinful decisions are rooted in laziness because you can't be bothered to do the right thing. And that's putting yourself above the judgment of God. And that's pride. So, stating that pride is the root of all the seven deadly sins is not that far-fetched. Sin as a whole stems from pride. That's the main idea of sin. We're missing the mark of God. We're saying, I know the rules better than the rule maker. I know what's better for me, better than the one who created me. But in reality, the whole reason we even breathe or that we're alive is because God made us, because God put breath in our lungs. And the only reason we can be saved and have a relationship with God is because Jesus did something that he did not deserve to have happen to him, which was to be tortured, crucified, and killed. But also, we did not deserve him to do this. So something happened to him that he did not deserve in order to give us something that we did not deserve. And when you really take a step back and look, man, we really do not deserve the things that God has given us because we have sinned against him. We've shown a nature that deliberately and constantly rejects him. That's called our flesh, our humanity. Our spirit is the one that chases after him, but our flesh naturally rejects him. But pride is the root of all of this. It's a sense of, I deserve this. I know better than this. But when I realized that pride was really the root of all sin, all of the seven deadly sins, it really opened a door to a huge spiritual and intellectual problem that the world has. Pride clouds everything. It makes you think you're smarter than you are. It makes you think that your rules and your way of living life is better than what God says. And most importantly, and the most scary and dangerous one, is that it makes you think that you can save yourself. And the only thing I need to ask is, tell me, what can you do after you die? What can you control after you die? Nothing. You have no physical grasp on anything that happens to you after you die. So whose hands is that in? Well, it's either on the gambit you take that God doesn't exist, even though you never prayed, even though you never looked into God, even though you never pursued an actual divine power to see if there was truth behind it or not. You simply said, oh, there's no God, I know better. I've never experienced it before, so therefore there is no God, he's not real, and these people are delusional, and when I die, we're just all going to fade to black. Or when I die, everyone goes to heaven. These are all beliefs that, first of all, don't have evidence behind them. Second of all, are arrogant. And third of all, are prideful. We live in a society where the world says, be proud of who you are. There are entire parades, rallies, events dedicated to pride. Being proud of who exactly you are right now. You have no flaws, you're perfect. Or being proud of things that we can't control, that God chose for us, like race or gender. We take such pride in things that actually God did for us. The only reason we're standing here breathing, a person with an identity, is because God made us. You are yourself because God made you. We are all a self. We are all ourselves. And because we're individuals that have a perspective, experiences, opinions, what happens is we tend to naturally gravitate towards thinking that we are the best, that we are always right, that we can't do any wrong, that we can save ourselves, that our beliefs are always right, and that other beliefs are uncomfortable. That's normal as an individual with a self, with an identity. And pride acts as a shield that bars us off from discovering and experiencing the reality that, yeah, we're not the best at what we think we're the best at. We are not the smartest person to walk the earth. We are not the best decision maker out there. And we also are incapable of saving ourselves. Once you realize that once you die, you are helpless. You are floating in the wind of fate. And the gamble that you took on Christianity, on atheism, on Islam, on agnosticism, whatever you gambled on, that is going to be your wager. The question is, did you make the right one? Or did your pride stop you from making the right one? See, pride is extremely dangerous. Not only can it lead us to not be saved, but it can also lead us into blasphemy, into living the wrong type of life, into being a person that repels other people. Thinking that you're right about everything, thinking that every preconceived notion that you have happens to be correct the first time you think about it just because you're a genius, this is not a correct or smart way to live life. In fact, pride is what caused Satan to fall from heaven. Satan thought he deserved more. Satan thought that he knew better than God, that he wanted to indulge in pleasure rather than be holy. And so him thinking he knew better than God caused him to fall. And now he leads other people to do the very same. But the opposite of pride is humility. And on the flip side to Satan, God humbled himself, brought himself down to earth, and sacrificed himself so that we could be saved. God is perfect, and he let hypocritical, rageful, wrathful, jealous, greedy human beings torture, beat, crucify, and kill him because he recognized that this humility is what would ultimately display that people need to put their trust in him. I would much rather trust a humble person than I would a prideful person. Pride is what blocks people from seeking and believing in God. It is the root of all sin, and sin is the absence of God. And so therefore it's not far-fetched to reason that pride is the sole reason that people never find God before they die. It stems from this belief that I don't need God. And there it is right there. I don't need God. Why do you think you don't need God? Well, the common answer is that I can live by my own rules. I'm a good person. I don't need a book to be a good person. I don't need to follow somebody to be a good person. You might even think that my teaching right now, that pride is the root of all evil, that pride is the reason Satan fell from heaven, that humility is the right way to live your life. You might think that's smart, but you could say, oh, that's a great teaching. I'm going to live by that. But yeah, the guy who taught it originally, the guy who said, for everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but the one who humbles himself will be exalted. Yeah, that guy didn't exist. He was fake, and he's not anybody. That's a form of pride because you take the advice but you ignore who actually invented it. Proverbs 16:18 says, pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Haughty means arrogant. Proverbs is a book of God-given wisdom. It doesn't come from nowhere. This doesn't come from some weird idea. And the fact that we can observe in the world that pride is indeed the root of all sin is thinking that you know better, is thinking that you're better than others. That is the reason why we sin. And thus, it is also the reason that we stray away from God. So just because you think biblical teachings are smart, but you don't need the Bible. Just because you think, oh, this Christian, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. Like, he can follow what he wants to follow. He can believe what he wants to believe. But I don't need that. I don't need that. It's not for me. This is a very dangerous, prideful belief, especially when you haven't given the Bible and Jesus their due diligence. Pride is starting to take over the world. People think they're better than God. People think they know better than God. They think they can mock God because God is some lowly concept that's beneath them. I warn you now, this is very dangerous. And if you side with people who indulge in these behaviors, you are on the wrong path. It takes a great deal of humility to say, I don't know everything. My opinion isn't always right. Maybe there is more credit and validity to the Bible than I originally thought, but half the people won't ever do it. And it's sad. It's dangerous. Humility is the key to finding God. Because if you have unreasonably prideful views of yourself, like you can't be wrong, like your experiences are always right and they can never mislead you, these are dangerous because they harm your walk with God, or they prevent you from finding God. Humility is how I found God myself, realizing that I wasn't always going to be right about this or that there was somebody that knew better. And if there was someone that knew better than me, I'd better find out who it is. Thanks for watching. Follow the cult of Christ. Always defend the faith. And God bless you.